quick introduction since we have y'all here, and we figured it'd be a relatively small group, so we could all just introduce ourselves again if you want to, totally optional. But I'm Amanda, and I've been reading tarot as part of the collective since our inception, and I'm really excited to talk to you all about like what we've been thinking about and dreaming up over here, and the changes that have been just like roaring out of us that have to happen. And yeah, we're so ready to share this with you all, and I'm really glad to do that with you face to face as we can. Kelsey?
Do you want to go, Kevin? Do you want me to go?
Kelsey.
Okay, I'm going. I'm Kelsey. Amanda called on me. I make the guidebooks. You maybe don't know my face if you've been in the collective stuff. Yeah, I've been working with the collective since its inception as well. I guess that's we created it together. But yeah, I'm really excited to share what we're dreaming up and yeah, let you all know what's happening and just kind of, yeah, invite you in. I'm just really excited for y'all to be here for sure.
Ditto all of that. And hi, I am Kevin, what has up until now been the disembodied voice doing the Astro that you guys have been listening to. Yeah, I'm really excited. Got some big changes that feel really fun and innovative and exciting. And I'm just happy to see all your happy faces and talk to you and hear what you have to say and tell you guys what we have to say. So yeah.
Cool. So yeah, I think our structure for the day, we're just going to chat about, you know, why we're going to talk a little bit about why we are shifting at this time, what our feelings have been around this, and what started this whole need to make a change, make a shift. And then many of you probably already saw in our video announcement, but I am going to briefly just summarize the change again, and I'll give you some visuals to help understand in a deeper way what we think that might look like. And then we'll get a little bit more in depth and try to give you as much details as we can, with the understanding that we're still devising this and trying to understand it ourselves. And then we'll give you all a chance to ask some questions if you have any at the end, and we'll get in conversation. Yay, good. All right, let's get to it. So I'm going to share my screen with you all. Yeah, many of you may have seen some of these graphics, but I'm just going to explain a little bit about how we've been feeling the monthly shifts as they have been coming out. So if you've been following along with the monthly shifts, you know that every month there are these 3 creations that come out of the energy of that month. It is the tarot, the astro, and the guidebooks, and these are sort of individual expressions that come out of our collaboration between the 3 of us talking through the energies. But what happens is, as you can see, as the month goes by, everything we created kind of disappears. And it's almost like Instagram content creation, you know, like swipe, 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 swipe. And we were really feeling like everything we put our heart and soul into just then dissolves or evaporates, never to be cared about again. And it just didn't feel right. So we're starting to look instead at creating a space rather than creating content. And while we're still forming what we think that might look like, it has come to our attention that perhaps the seasons are these built-in shifts that we all go through in one form or another, and that out of those shifts we could create and make things. So what you're seeing now is basically these explorations of whatever season we are in. We've got the summer season that is the next season approaching us. And so we imagine that out of the summer studio, this container for exploring the energy that is presenting to us in the way that it's presenting, and how we are all feeling through that, through our collaboration with not only the three of us, but anybody else, any of you that would like to join us in that seasonal studio. Lots of things could come out of that that are more than tarot readings, astroscopes, and guidebooks. Like we're trying to give ourselves a little bit more creative room to play within these containers and see, like, what could this creation be? Like, maybe this is a tarot reading, maybe this is a guidebook, but what's this? Like, that's this over here might be something that someone else brings into the space that that is, something we couldn't have thought of with the three of us. And it's something that could come out of the energy that is present in that particular cohort, that particular group. So these seasonal studios feel like playtime for us. They feel like this opportunity to go deeper and then create things out of that might be accessed in a membership space. We love the membership format because it feels really good to be regularly connected with the people that support our work, and we want to keep that space open and as accessible as possible. So this could be a space where folks get a taste or get to enjoy whatever comes out of, like, the intimate studio of the season, and the members get to kind of reap the benefits of that in a more, if the seasonal studios are these like community or collaborative creative spaces, then the member spaces might be more self-guided. It might be more of an opportunity for the individual member to pick and choose their own adventure and say, okay, well, I've got all of this to play with. How am I playing today? How am I meeting all of these ways of exploring myself and my intuitive, creative inclinations based on what's here? And then we imagine some of that will extend out into the public, because after all, we do want everybody to have some kind of access to the wild and fun magic that happens when we put our hearts together and make things. So that's basically the shift as we are seeing it. And yeah, Kelsey, do you want to talk a little bit about, like, why? Fill in some blanks about why
Yeah,
we
definitely.
want to do this.
Yeah, so initially this came up because Amanda and Kevin and I were talking about how much we wanted to create more than what we're able to in just a month. And we're wanting more time to be able to really get in deep to stuff. So, like, there's a story unfolding with the shifts and we're following it, and we're really, we're deep in it in different ways. And also it feels so like it does disappear, it goes into the void at the end of the month. And we're like, we know exactly what each sign has been going through, or we know what the collective has gone through. And we're also like, but there's so much more here. Like, there's so much more we could be doing. And we love that the way that things were showing up and moving through us, but it just got to be too limited. It just got to be too small. And so that's where the seasonal shifts and the member space kind of came up, is because we're like, we want a place where things can stay. The membership is more like the collection of all of our work. Like, it's what's growing and being built over time. And that's where you could go back and explore the things that happened. Like, once we've been around for a year, last summer, you can go and check that stuff out if there's something in that that's resonating for you. And the way we see the seasonal shifts or the seasonal studios is different from shifts in that it's more about, like, present moment. So when we were doing shifts before, we had to, like, feel into the month ahead. And that was really hard on us for a lot of reasons. And it worked well. And I think we got a lot of information from that. And also, like, a lot of the time we were struggling to be in two times at that same time. So we wanted to make something that was going to allow us to be present as we're actually feeling the energies move through, instead of trying to kind of feel into them when it's way too soon to actually know. I believe that being present, that's where like my own experience of these kind of energies happens in the present. And that's like where my mind is blown. Like sometimes, sometimes I can feel into things that are coming, but it's pretty rare that I'm like, whoa, like that's like life changing for me, unless I'm in the moment with it, like in the present moment is where that happens to me. So I'm really excited for that to be part of what we're doing. I think to me, those were like the most important parts, was that we had so much creative energy that we wanted to really get deep with, that we needed more time to be able to do that, which is where the seasons kind of came from. And then we also just needed to be present with it, instead of, kind of moving through it quickly and then trying to feel it more when it's actually happening. So yeah. Kevin, what?
I also wanted to add to, aside from, having to jump ahead and then live through something, there's also, and I know this came up for me like very personally, but also for the three of us as a collective, wanting to kind of step out of the space of being information dispensers and, into helping you guys find that guide within yourself. So like to create space, not just where we are in the present, and what's the other thing I'm trying to say? Not just where we're present and, being more creative and open, but also where we're providing space and facilitating and giving kind of like, what's the word I'm trying to find? Like helping you to find and master your own self is really like the other part. Like we're here for readings and guidance and all of those things, but we kind of want to, like, I think I've said this a zillion times, it's like a Hierophant year, and the Hierophant is all about being fully aligned in yourself and without the middleman. And a lot of times we always think that, the Hierophant is the middleman, like between you and God, it's the priest, or between, you and knowledge, it's the teacher. But Hierophant is you and you. And that's really what we're going for. Another one of the, I think that kind of like the third piece to that is that we really want you guys to find that divinity and that creativity and that spark within yourself. So that was all I need to add.
And to add to that, like not only find it in yourself, but we want to hear your creativity. Like we want, rather than always like giving our own view, we would like to receive from you. And because if there's one thing that I've learned from bringing like this work into a more collaborative space with Kevin and Kelsey, it's that they bring things to the table with their own intuitive natures and their own creativity that I'm so thankful for, and that blow like my own realizations up 3 times. And so imagine what could happen if we all come to the table with that kind of openness and willingness to share how all of this energy is impacting us. I feel like we could all just be blowing each other's minds all the time. And I'm really, really ready for more of that kind of collaboration.
Yeah, definitely. I think that, one thing that hasn't necessarily been named in what we're talking about is also, Kevin named it in a way, but like essentially we don't want to be the authority, because we're not. Like we don't know better than you all. You all know yourselves and your lives way better than we ever could. And so it's really important to us that we're creating a space that doesn't have like someone who knows better or knows more or is like the end all be all of something, right? Like we want to be sharing that and in collaboration with everyone, so that we can all learn from each other.
Yeah. So that's what we're excited about. That's what we think this is going to look like. we want to go a little deeper now into the seasonal studios and talk to you all about how we are imagining those might go. So Kevin, you want to take us into the studio a little bit?
Into the studio. Okay. So the seasonal studios they're still etheric and forming. So bear with me as I try to envision them, but picture it. Okay. What we're doing is basically what started happening, kind of give you a little bit of a backstory. What started happening was, we're moving forward in time to give you guys like the shift readings. And then we have to then backtrack to the present and then live through all of those things. And in that kind of cyclical thing, we started noticing that as we were talking, there were threads that were running through the seasons, which I'm sure you guys followed our work, and there's a storyline. But even bigger than that, there was a thread that seemed to be like really following like the seasonal shifts and just how things were playing out, and like just a bigger energy. And the seasons are a way for us to kind of experience more fully. It's a bigger container than a monthly, if that makes sense to everyone. Okay, so that's where we're getting the seasonal idea from. It's a larger container for us to play with and within. And also because there are different themes that are coming out of that, as evidenced by the shifts in the stories, we have a bigger container to work and to play. So what that's going to look like, sorry, I'm looking at my notes here. What we're thinking about it looking like is that it's a more intimate space. So you saw like we have a public space and then a membership space, but the seasonal studios are a completely intimate space of folks who want to come in and take a deep dive into the seasonal process, whatever that might be. And what it is, it's a collaborative effort. We ask that those who come in, like what we do know is that we want to ask those that do come in, you have to show up. Okay, so that means we want to hear your voice. We want to know how you're feeling. We want to know what you're thinking. And we're creating that space and holding that space so that everyone can be authentic and be themselves. Because what we're doing in the seasonal spaces is we are actually pulling from each one of the participants, or what we would like to potentially call co-creators in this space. We're pulling from everybody's energy the thread that we all need at that moment. So that's why we're the co-creators, because each one of us is bringing something that then coalesces into one theme, one energy that unites us all. And that's what we're really working to find, and then take ourselves through a process, take each other through a process, and hold each other through it, while also really creating more of a sense of community. Because like we were saying, like we want to connect with you guys. We want to know what it is that we want to know who we're speaking to, and how what is happening is affecting you. That's the best way for us to generate whatever is needed. And it's the best way, I think, for us to, like I said, build that community and build a structure that can hold all of us. So let me see what else I wanted to say. So what we're envisioning, so that's kind of like what we're like the bare bones. And what we're kind of envisioning, should I talk about the guys?
Yeah, I have a visual I could pull up.
Okay, cool. So Amanda with the props here. So she's gonna
Always.
show things. All right. Okay. So what we're looking at here is following like either from left to right or right to left. You pick your position, okay? Because that's really what this is about. Everybody comes in as they are. You pick your position, and from that position, this can be this can be a thread. Okay, this can be the thread that we're following. And what we're doing is we're taking a journey to the center. where we will like where the energies deepen, and as you know, we're getting to know each other, we're finding that thread, we're finding that piece, and as everything coalesces in that center, we take a journey together to come out the other side into the other part of the season. Now, this could take any length of time. We're leaving things very open-ended so that we can always have space to play, always have space to feel into the moment, feel into who's present with us and what those needs are, and you know what we are all bringing to the table so that we can create something new each and every season. That is what that's really what I want to stress here. Like these seasonal containers, while they will have a particular structure which will look something like this in your mind, we also understand that we are all human beings with different needs at different times, and that the seasons will be asking us for different things. And so we have to respond in kind. So we have to be very open with what we're doing. But basically, it's a journey from the outside in and then back out another side. So like I said, pick your position, whichever way you're coming from, but that's really what that's the meat of what we're doing. And whatever comes out of this container, whatever we generate together, whatever Amanda, Kelsey, and I generate, you know, for all of us to work with or play with, that some of that material will be available in the member space, but that would then also be, you know, we would have to get permission because it is such an intimate space of what gets shared and what does not, with, you know, outside folks. So yeah, like this is, yeah, I think this is pretty much what I have to say. I'm trying to think, is there anything else, guys? Did I miss anything? You guys have anything to add, share? Okay.
We have talked about more Zoom calls because everybody loves a good Zoom as ways that we're connecting, because obviously we're hoping, we assume that people are going to be from all over. And so one of the ways that we've talked about connecting is through Zoom calls, which will be, you know, just as fluid in some ways, so that we're honoring where everyone is literally, like geographically, because some people's time zones are going to impact when they can be there and not. So everything would be recorded, but it would also, we would try to be flexible in terms of, we are going to try to be flexible in terms of timing and things like that with each cohort specifically. So that's like the number one way I think that we're thinking of connecting with you all. And then, you know, other ways can be kind of fluid in whatever we're creating. So if we're doing something that's more, or, you know, if you just feel more comfortable, like communicating through words or written language, you know, you can email us. Yeah, I think kind of what we want to do is create a space where however we need to be communicating, we can. So I think we feel like things are really fluid and like we want them to be that way, but also we want to make sure you all are with us in what we're trying to communicate. So it's a little bit of a tricky place to be.
Yeah, and I think I also just wanted, like, to that end as well, like we also want to foster, like, you know, friendships if people want that, that kind of community. So, you know, we have like this idea for, you know, potentially, like, I don't know, like if you would like to reach out to someone in the group, like, and speak privately or work on something together or go through something together, you know, like there are options for that. We're talking about, you know, things like that that really help bring a sense of cohesiveness and depth, I think is what another word, you know, just deepening of experience and deepening of shared experience. So yeah, so that's another thing that we're thinking about. Amanda, you got anything?
Yeah, I just also want to explain this squiggle a little bit more. I feel like this came out of one of our weekly bonfire visioning conversations where, as we were trying to understand what could happen in these seasonal studios, we realized that we really just needed to kind of follow the energy, however it would take us, and that we would need to enter the space from a place of openness, which is where you see these like larger loops, is entering this space and saying, all of us, whoever is here in the studio, okay, what's here? Where are we here at the equinox or at the solstice? You know, what are the energies that are here? And then as we begin to hear from everyone, and as we begin to sort of narrow our focus, that is how I'm seeing these tighter loops, is eventually we begin to choose a focus. I'm sure there are many things that we could explore in a seasonal studio. There's a lot of energy that moves through in a 3-month span, but eventually as a group we want to choose something, because we want to focus our energy on something that we could all like experience in a really deep visceral kind of rabbit hole, you know. And so this like more focused part of that thread to me is that more concentrated exploration of something specific that is coming out of that season. And then the energy begins to sort of wind back out from that intensity, where we begin to say, okay, wow, what was that we just went through? Maybe there's a debrief kind of an energy, or an energy of connecting the dots and looking back in hindsight and beginning to understand what we've all moved through in that seasonal studio exploration and in that energy. And from there, it's kind of this moment of integration. And it's almost like that thread is then spinning us back out into the world from where we started, which is also just follows the line of the tarot. You know, it follows like we started at the full space and we're ending at the full space, ready for a new cycle, ready to leap into the next season, saying, okay, what is fall offering me now? What is this next marker, turning of the wheel, turning of the year going to bring?
Yes. Should we talk about the Persephone stuff now, or?
Yeah.
Okay. Who wants to start?
Do you want to start? Because you brought Persephone forward.
Okay, I guess I'll start. I just wanted to know, because I was like that was like such a perfect segue, and I was like, we didn't do that part yet. So I guess you guys, if you watched our video, you saw the clip of us, you know, speaking about Persephone and that journey, and really what that is like a taste of what it's like to be in that kind of zone, in that kind of space. That's how we work. And really that whole Persephone conversation came up because we're working with, like, it's kind of like, this is sort of like our beta seasonal container for that the three of us are working through. And whatever comes out of this, we will hopefully be able to share with you guys soon when we move through this process. But so if you guys listen to the collective reading for April, it was all about Pluto, and Pluto talking about how we needed to see beyond. If you want to see something clearly, you have to look beyond, which was like a really trippy message. And so we were like, let's talk about Pluto. All right. So we're thinking, okay, we're going to talk about Pluto. And in that discussion and looking beyond, then we kind of we're like, it's like, okay, wait a minute. You can't talk about Pluto if you don't talk about Persephone. Like they go together. So that's where that whole Persephone line of thought and the whole, like, that was our big opening. So Pluto was like the beginning of that thread for us. And then we're kind of looping in Persephone, and then from Persephone series, and then, you know, and we're getting closer and closer and closer. And so we're moving through this process right now through that whole Pluto Persephone series journey, and seeing where that is going to take us on the other side. So you guys got a glimpse into that process for us, and the ways that we were talking through that, and the ways that we're working through that. And we've got some pretty cool things that we're thinking about creating from that, which is really fun. So you guys want to like add in your bits?
Yeah, all I want to say is it sort of feels like Persephone is like leading us through this journey. At least I feel very led. I feel very led. She has taken my hand in the upper world and been like, okay, here we go. Boom. She's like dragging me down there. At first, I will say, at first it felt a little bit like a drag when like I realized that things needed to change. Change is always really uncomfortable, especially with a format that we actually do enjoy. It's like, oh my gosh, I have to change a thing I like. Like that feels complicated. And also it has to happen, and so that felt like the moment actually that I didn't know that's what it was, but Persephone was like, okay, it's time. Let me guide you through what I've been through before, and like let Pluto do some magic. And so it just feels like we've been pulled down into a deeper space where we can get a different vantage and see our work in a completely flipped way. And it sort of feels like we're going to resurface with a much deeper understanding of where this kind of creative, intuitive explorations can go when we allow ourselves to expand outside of what we know.
Yeah. The only thing that I want to add to it is, since this is kind of like our beta season, we are each kind of exploring it in different ways, and then we're coming together. So I mean, for me, when I'm imagining what the studios are going to be like, it involves that. Like each of us, the three of us, have like gone with Persephone wherever she wants to take us in whatever way that has been really unique to us, right? And then we come back and we have these conversations and we explore different ways that could be leading us, or where we could be going, or what we might want to create from it. And it feels like, for me, it feels like the first time I've ever had that kind of collaborative experience with like my own personal journey stuff, right? Like I do a lot of that stuff on my own anyway. And so this was the first time that I was like, oh, y'all, I did this like weird ass ritual and it involved dirt and it involved these things and I did this. And then what was amazing was like the water was what was most important. And then like we went this whole place with water and like what that was, and that led us into something else. And so it feels really, one, it feels really damn good for me just personally. And then two, it feels really important that like so much more is able to come from this thing that I personally experienced, that previously I'd thought like, well, that's like probably weird, I shouldn't tell people about that, or like whatever, and now I'm like, no, actually I need to be talking about this because I get to see and understand and learn and be challenged if I'm in conversation with people about this stuff, and it feels like that's really significant for me about what we're creating. And I don't think that I'm the only one who needs that. So I just wanted to name it as part of our process.
Yeah. And like to go off of that, I think there's in the work that we do, it's really easy to get caught in our own self-work in this way that it honestly feels good. Like it can be painful and hard, but it can feel it can like going on my own rabbit holes sometimes. It blows my own mind and is so fun. And then to the point where I may not take the next step, which is to then like take everything I'm learning about myself and get out of myself and like take that out into the community, into relationship, into a larger context, or else it's just me inside of myself doing my own thing without the larger context of human connection and community and social containers. So it feels to me like this offers us, it sort of like takes the individual work, which the monthly shifts had been offering us, and bumps it up a notch and then gives us a context to put it inside of that is connected and that is collaborative, and that where we can see ourselves reflected in something beyond us. Okay, I want to hear from you all. Can we go to question and answer?
Yeah. Okay. So if y'all don't want to talk, I'm in the chat. So if you want to just type it, I will say it for you, or you can speak.
But yeah, if you have a question, feel free to unmute and just jump in. We're a small enough group. I think we can totally do that. But like Kelsey said, you can type in the chat.
Or maybe you have a comment and not a question.
Yeah.
Oh, you know I have a comment.
Yes, I do, Rhiannon. I was trying to-
I was like, Rhiannon, you don't need to unmute first. Rhiannon, you don't need to unmute first.
Unmute first.
I was just like wanting to send so much love to you all the whole time, and like even like send you notes in advance of like, don't feel like you need to defend yourselves. Don't feel like you need to explain yourselves. But the explanations were so beautiful, and the like depictions that you put together were really, really helpful. And so like my heart is just like even more in it. And so I'm just really grateful I was able to be here to like hear more about it, and not like from a place of needing to defend, but just like this is what we're going. And it's so beautiful that you're sharing it with us now, like at the beta, kind of stage, because I feel like oftentimes we don't do that, and then we spin ourselves and it becomes more difficult. What I did want to say, and not like a guilt trip thing at all, but just so you know how much I appreciate all that you have done. I've shared them like my life wouldn't look like what it does today if it wasn't for Unseen Hands healing and the collective, like period. Like that's not even a question. That's just so true. And I know I've shared that before. So it was last week when I saw that like there was going to be a shift in the collective, and I had a whole experience, like a whole Cassidy's just like fucking yes. And I like couldn't, I didn't tell my partner. I was like tight-lipped about it. Kevin's dying. I was like a child, like a 3-year-old child having like this emotional response. Oh, it was so real. And then I was like, and I was like this, Amanda, when you first did your first big shift of like to opening it to the collective and like how the membership was changing. I was like, I just fucking trust. You better believe I'm going to trust if it's Kevin, Kelsey, Amanda, and all three coming together and being like, it's time to make this change, like between you all and your guides and everything. I'm like, obviously I'm going to like fully like surrender into this. And like, and I was talking with my partner last night, and I was like, and like finally told them about it because I mentioned this call. And I was like, I had a whole thing last week. I didn't mention to you. And they were like, oh my God. So I'm like, I say that to be like, the work you've done to date, obviously, has been so impactful and like meaningful, and we all love it. And I feel like it's so generous of you all to be like, we're going to do something in this direction, and we really want to welcome you into it. And we really want to welcome co-creators, whatever that ends up looking like. And that is like you all sharing out even more love. And then like, yes, if you're like, can we please receive some of this beyond like, dollar exchange? Like, yes. So thank you for this and bringing us into it now. My 3-year-old self is like, I'm still having conversations with that person, and we're like totally on board.
Thank you, Rhiannon.
The only question would
Yeah.
be like if along the way you all want more like feedback or input, so you don't feel like you're just like throwing darts and hoping they land, like please, at least me, but I'm seeing nods already, like please use us. And then still, regardless of what we say, do what you need to do.
Thank you. I
you.
appreciate that. And that's part of why we're doing this, because we need something on the other end. We're just like throwing huge chunks of hearts out into the void every month, and we know that it's landing. Like we do know that up here, but we need to feel it, and so that's why we're opening a space to create that container for ourselves too, so we can actually connect with you all and like experience that. I mean, that's why I even brought on, like, I needed Kevin and Kelsey to come in, because I needed, you know, I was throwing darts into the void all by myself. And then I was like, this is horrible. Let me bring these two in. Okay, now at least we have something in between us, but now all three of us are throwing darts into the void. Okay, something majorly needs to change. And like, Rianne, just so you know, I'm sure all of us in our own ways have, like, we have also had to experience that surrender. And I mean, y'all know I've been doing this format for a good chunk of time now. So I've got a 3-year-old inside that's like, you want me to what? You know, like, I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know what that is. I don't want to do something I don't know about. Like, I know about this and I want to keep doing this, you know? So I'm with you. It is a total like Persephone process of surrender, for each of us in our own ways here. So you're not the only one surrendering here. We're right there with you.
I know I've done a lot of commenting with my face. I can't help it, but a few things. I really like the idea of moving from like being like a passive person to an active person in the whole thing. And I know, like, I sort of watched as in the last few months, I don't know, I kind of sensed that something was going to change soon. I don't know. I think it was maybe when Amanda was like, don't forget, there's more to this, because at the end of the tarot readings, because personally, it's so much information every month. And I'm like, I admit, like, I will watch like my 3 tarot readings and then come around to the other parts when I feel like I have the energy. But I like the idea of being able to be more active and also it being more focused. I don't know exactly what it is you're doing, do any of this, but I like the idea of being able to like mull around and wallow around in some stuff for a longer amount of time, and having interactions with one another. That seems really cool, because I also, you all were talking about how you're creating all this content, but it's like a month in advance. And I thought about that. I was like, that's got to be hard. And so I completely understand, you know, like, I think all of us are familiar with, you know, Lindsay Mack and her like tarot in the present moment. And it's like, you can't get, I'm worried about you all, you know what I mean? Like not being able to live in the present moment. So yeah, just cheers, and I'm here for it.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Yeah, it is so much info. That is another thing we really recognize, is that this is a lot to digest. I mean, like, we know and that's part of why we had to make a shift, because, you know, we are in March thinking forward into April and trying to live March. And like, even in that experience, it was almost impossible for all of us to do our own integrating work, because this stuff is so much, where I was just like, oh my gosh, you know, me just trying to do my own sun, moon, rising. I was like, this is impossible. How are people doing all of this? This is so much. You know, like, it's all really, really good, but I'm just like, my hand is tired because I'm just journaling. So I'm with you, Cassidy, on that. And we've talked about that too. It's just like, this is so much information. Are people okay? You know, like, how are they receiving this? And I feel like a seasonal container, like you're saying, it's more time to digest things and to go deeper, you know, because there's only so much, like you're saying, there's only so much you can crack into in the span of a month. We have lives, you know, but maybe with a little bit more time, we can get deeper into these energies that we're already carrying over to the next month anyway. You know, like Kevin said earlier, like, the thread of the story would be the same for Aries, with small variations and like specific smaller shifts for like about 3 months at a time. It's like, okay, this is basically the same story, but here's a new detail, you know? So it's like, if we actually give ourselves that larger container, maybe we can actually digest this stuff and integrate it a little more compassionately.
Yeah, because it's like the information overload is just like, wow. And I mean, even as a reader, like not only just the time jumps, but we have to jump 13 times, to like the collective and then all the zodiac. So like there was a point where I was actually nauseated. Like it was making me ill because I was like, I can't do this. So even like Cassie, to your point, like you're doing Sun, Moon, Rising. It's like, whoa, it's so much. So to give ourselves this kind of space, but also that you're not trying to do it yourself. That's the other beautiful part of this. It's you're not alone or, trying to like corner your partner one day, be like, okay, so I'm having this like whole thing right now. And they're like, can I just eat my eggs? Can I just eat my eggs? Like, so it's like, or sometimes, or some of us don't have partners, we don't have anybody, or you're like accosting your cat, like whatever, like you just need somebody to like be like, look, I'm having a major moment here, or I think that this is the thing that I saw or I read or whatever, like this is what's happening to me right now. And there is always going to be someone that can say, you know what, I got you. Let's talk through it. This is what I'm going through. Let's work it out together. That's what we're here to do. And yeah, so just even to, because it is like a lot to do for one person alone. It's just a lot. So yeah. I don't even know what else to say. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it is a lot. I also think that, I mean, one thing that I thought was really interesting as we were moving towards this shift was like there were specific moments where specific stories or like things were coming through that were obviously, well, what felt like to me obviously for the collective, like there was a whole Libra thing back there. There was like and when we would get into it and talk about this one specific sign's like story for that month for like an hour and a half, and then be like, oh wait, I guess we should talk about the other signs too. And it's like the other signs are important and we want to hear what they're going through, but this is really this is what we want right now. This is what's talking to all three of us. This is where we're all joining. And yeah, it was interesting for me to like witness that, because when we first started it I think that happened a little bit, but the more we did it, the more we talked, the more these specific themes were coming out over time, and like the more this one story really wanted attention. And then we would relate all the other signs to like that one story, like, oh yeah, when this one's talking about Venus too, just like that one did, or like whatever, like we would have that kind of understanding. And so it feels very natural to me to move from where we had been into this, because there are specific stories that are connecting us that want our full attention, and we're trying to get it in various ways through the shift like structure. And now we can really give them what I think they're needing, what we're needing.
Well said, Kelsey.
Thank you.
I just had to say that reminds me of, I don't remember which month it was, I'm sure you all do, but when Amanda, you got the same cards for everyone, like, it's just like, okay, everybody is on the same, we're all in the same thing, and my Sun, Moon, and Rising had all of those cards, and I was just like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Like we want to talk about that. And obviously, like, yeah, sometimes there is that one sign that's like over in the corner over there doing their own little dance, and that's cool too. But we like, those are the things where like, wow, that five, because it was January with all those 5 of Wands and stuff. Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about, Cassidy. Yeah, so like, we wanted to talk about that, but there's like no space in that structure, and and also just like the like really bringing people into the present. Like we have to live what's happening to us, and we're, because everybody's like always like, okay, well, let me get my thing so I know what's happening this month. We actually really don't know. None of that stuff could apply to us. How about if we learn what's actually applicable now and like move through that and work through that, and stop giving ourselves anxiety about like, the next 30 days ahead of us. Like, you know, just chill and like really work with what we have. And that's the other part of the seasonal container that really like wanted to happen. It's like we all need to be in now, really in the now.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, because that, you know, there's been some like ethical stuff coming up for me in, I would say in the last year, like 6 months, but especially after the new year, I was just like, man, I'm saying one thing and I'm doing another. I'm saying you are your own guide. And then I'm like turning a camera on and being like, here's what I say every month. And I'm like, that's not computing. Okay. So that's one thing. The second thing is like, I'm saying we are not predicting the future here with tarot. We are not fortune telling or like living in the future. And I'm always saying like, come into the present, and that here I am being like, here's what might happen in April, you know? So it's like, there's a disconnect if we're looking at that really literally, where I'm like, all right, if I am challenging myself and all of us to live in the present and to be to listen to ourselves and trust ourselves, then like this work has to facilitate that. It has to reflect that. Um, and I gotta say yes to the anxiety piece as well. Like I can feel that in myself. Like I was getting anxious about April in March because and then like I had a whole journey with my anxiety about April, which thankfully was resolved by the time April came along, and it was much calmer. But it's like, wow, okay, if I'm experiencing this, other people are experiencing this when they hear this reading or when they hear about the transits. And that's not what this is really, that's not to me the most productive use of that energy. And I'm not saying this stuff isn't predictive. If you ask me, it really can be, but maybe a more useful way to channel all of this intuitive insight is as we feel it in the moment and as we're moving through things. And that's such a challenge, and it's one that I'm deeply needing and wanting to do it not alone.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
same with the astro, like, you know, because everybody is on like the astro kicks, and every transit, every moon gets sensationalized. When sometimes that's not even the message. Sometimes there's somebody in the background doing a whole thing, and everybody's like, oh, but you know, Venus is Kazemi and okay, yeah, so, but what's Mars doing? What's Mercury doing? Who actually wants to speak? You know, so it's like we have to get past all of these things that take us really out of what matters, which, like we said, the moment, our integrity, being with each other and processing all of this stuff as we can and just doing our best. And that's really what the seasonal containers are about, and helping us to create from what we feel in these moments.
Yeah.
Because
That-
that's go ahead, Kelsey, sorry.
Oh, no, sorry. I did not mean to interrupt you. The one thing that's connecting that we talked about that I wanted to mention was, and it's maybe not connecting to anyone else but me, so I'll just name that. But we talked a lot about how we want these containers to be for everyone's authenticity. And what I'm thinking about right now is around like what you just said, Kevin, made me think of that in terms of like there's a planet in the back that like really wants to say something, because there've been moments in working with the three of us where like one of us will be like, I'm not feeling that, like I don't know what's going on with you two, but I'm not in line with that, or like this doesn't feel right, or like I need to do something different. And that's when, for us at least, the most important like insights come through. And so I just wanted to mention that that's another thing that we want to be cultivating in the seasonal studio, is like empowering or giving a space where people can really be like, no, that's not for me, or like, no, I'm not resonating with that, or like I'm needing to do something over here with something else, or you know, like whatever it is. We want people to be able to like follow their own integrity and follow their own authenticity to what is really guiding them. and I think there is a space for that in all of the work we want to be doing together, because when someone's like, actually, I'm going to need to go talk to Pluto for a minute, and this is not like, I'm not all about Venus in this moment, then it's like, okay, well, wait, how do those two combine, and like, how can we have them talk together, and like, what is the message between both of those? And it just becomes so much richer, I guess. And I wanted to mention that because we had talked about mentioning it and we hadn't yet, so.
Okay, so you all know I stan, and I have to say something at the end here, of course, after listening to everybody. I basically have to echo what Rianne said. I mean, it needs to be said a million times over that I would not be the person that I am today without your guidance, from the very beginning and from your personal connections into this evolution. And I can't even imagine how much my mind is going to get blown and how much I will also develop and continue to develop in the future through this new offering. So first of all, there's that. And on the inner child side of things, I was not shocked at all to hear this, actually, because oddly enough, I know this will not surprise Amanda at all, but I was feeling a shift in the way that I was digesting the information as well. And so I wasn't shocked per se. And so maybe that was why I wasn't actually throwing a tantrum for myself either in that way. Or maybe I've just done a lot of work to get myself to a place where I don't do that. And I respect your guidance and vision. And especially Amanda's like super wonderful, like mastermind, like pose situation you've got going on with the lighting. Like, I just love it. Like, you've got like the whole, got the curtain.
I was gonna say that.
I know, Rianne. I knew you were gonna say that.
And it's also like very like Gemini, like with the shadow
it's
and the
so
light.
good, right? And
Yeah.
she's like sitting there back, and she's like, no, I'll just. It's like, I've got this. Yeah, it's fantastic. Fucking love it. Anyway, so so of course I trust, which is really my big thing that I'm working on in general anyway. So I trust. And I want to say too that I'm really looking forward to the contribution side too, because it is always a struggle to say, okay, who do I talk to this about? Like, how do we find a place for this? And also wanting to share those insights, you know, like as the relationship develops with the tarot or the planets or whatever, and just finally like connecting through, or with the self and like your coping mechanisms and everything, like all these like connect the dots moments where I'm just like, other people could benefit from this too. How can I contribute as someone who's not doing this for a living too, right? So it's like, I don't have a platform to put this out on. It's not really my thing necessarily, and I can absorb it, but by telling it, you absorb it even more, because again, you get that feedback. So I just want to echo that too. And I'd already been feeling that energy of wanting to have a space for providing that feedback too, and that brainstorming. So yeah, this is exactly what this is better than what I was hoping for. And I'm just really happy for you all and everybody involved in this.
Thank you. Does anyone have more questions as we round things out a little bit?
I mean, I have questions that I can ask us if y'all want me to ask us questions, but other than that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there's just like a little bit more information that we could share that we know.
Yeah.
Others may have questions who might watch this later.
Sure. Okay, I'm going to ask us some questions then. Okay. How do you sign up for the seasonal studio if you so wanted to?
Yeah, so it will be its own container. You could think of it almost like signing up for a course or signing up for some sort of, people do like 8-week courses or things like that you can sign up for. It'll be something similar to that format. And you can join if you want, and you don't have to be a member to join, it'll be free and open to whoever wants to join the seasonal studio experience.
Okay, wait, you said something a little bit confusing there. So then I'm also
Oh.
going to say, how much does the studio cost?
Yes, the studio will cost $150.
Yeah. So it's
$150 to be part of the season. That's how we are pricing it at this time.
Yes. Okay, cool. So then when do the seasonal studios start and how long do they last? Do you want me to answer this one? Because I can. Okay. So the seasonal studios are going to be starting on the week of the equinox or the solstice, and then they'll be going for the following 3 months until the next equinox or solstice. So depending on what that looks like and how intensive it is and what happens in them, that could be like up until the solstice, or it could be like a few days before that we end one and then begin another one that's the later in the week or the next week or something. So that's the plan right now. Okay. The only other question that we had, which I think we talked about a little bit, but we can talk about it more directly, is where we thought that folks might want to know if we were going to be doing readings or guidebooks or things we had done previously. Will they still be part of the studio, or are those things just gone forever? And I will say for me, those things are definitely still going to be here. I don't know what they'll look like. I don't know what they're going to be about, but like I love making guidebooks and I get a lot out of them. So I will probably still be making things like that, but I'll get to hopefully be making a lot more of other things too.
Yeah, it's sort of like a yes and, rather than necessarily like taking something away. The format will likely change. It has to make room for what we're talking about. But I'm a tarot reader, like that's a heart of what I do. And so I bet readings are going to happen in some shape or form, but what's exciting to me is that I get to do more than that, and I get to explore the other facets of my creativity in the ways that those energies want to express in other ways as well.
Yeah, and for my part, always the astrologer. So, like, it's just that I was telling these guys, I get to elaborate on what I mean. And I'm sure it'll come out in conversation and in our Zoom calls and in all the different ways that we connect, but it just won't be an hour-long podcast devoted to X. But yeah, it's all still going to be there, just not concentrated. I think that's the thing. It's just not going to be concentrated, which feels, like you were saying, Cassidy, probably a lot better.
And like weirdly more expansive, because I think it gives us the opportunity to, when we don't have to channel everything into this very specific way of sharing, we can create like readings, but also discussions or study groups or like art or, maybe other kinds of oracles that we've already been creating. We can create like visceral experiences for us to share and experience and engage in ritual together. Like there's just so much more we could be doing. And this gives us a chance to play with that.
Yeah, it makes this experiential, I think, that's what I just pulled from what you said, Amanda. It's experiential as opposed to this, okay, I'm taking it all in and now I have to hold it here and try to move it through my body, move it through my soul, move it through my emotions. We get to experience everything. So it's not this concentrated bit of information, but instead it's just you just take it in as you need it, and you take it in as you can receive it, and you move with it as you need to. And that is really what we're going for, something that is experiential. Doggone it.
And maybe that'll like help ease the sense of overwhelm, because otherwise it's like you're saying, it's information to digest and it has to like hit here. And then at some point you live something and it pings here and then it goes deeper, but like, what if we could cut to the chase, like what if we didn't have to dispense all of this intellectual information for you to process, but we could get right to something deeper that streamlines something and helps you understand something in a deeper way much faster. and then hopefully eases the overwhelm a little bit.
Yeah, and the anxiety of like we were saying before, waiting to find out what the thing is. Because sometimes even like from reading like a title of a thing, I'm like, oh shit, damn it, it's gonna be some bullshit that I gotta, and then I don't even want to. I really just don't even want to hear it. But I'm like, okay, well, I have to anyway because I want to kind of know. And like even just from bracing yourself for like what this thing could possibly be, just like taking in what you need and having arms to hold you as you're kind of like in the fetal position crying through it, whatever you got to do, like it's all good. And
Yeah,
that's
and then like you also don't have to wonder, is this reading really for me? Is this, I hear that a lot from folks is, almost unanimously, like, I wasn't sure if what you were saying was about me. And that kind of made me started feeling paranoid. And again, I'm like, this is ethically, there's something a little fuzzy here because I don't want to be giving people that experience. And the best way to do that is to offer something that you can experience more viscerally, and you'll know if it resonates, because it'll be hitting your guts in a way that you're like, oh yeah, this, and the thing is, it's not coming from outside of you. It's coming from you. So it is resonating. It is
Yeah.
inherently resonant.
Exactly. Any more questions, Kelsey?
Oh no, that was all the ones that we thought people would want to know.
Yeah, and in the meantime, we're making this shift and transition, and we are thinking that we'll be ready for a summer studio at the solstice, which would be really fun. Obviously, giving us grace and flexibility if that needs to change, but everything looks like it's soaring in that way. And so as we continue to follow Persephone into the underworld and let Pluto do what Pluto does, you can always book with us. You can always work with us in a pretty similar format that you're used to with the monthly shifts. You can book our collective guidance and you'll get a personal tarot reading, astro reading, and personal guidebook. So you can always connect with us, or you can book with each of us individually still through this transition. So we're here. We're not going anywhere. We're just shifting.
Just taking the underworld journey. Because that's what you got to do when you transition. You got to die. So
Just simple as that.
just as simple as that.
Normal things.
Any other questions, comments?
You all somehow got like the least logistically focused participants on this call.
Amazing. No
But don't worry,
problem.
you had the questions, Kelsey.
We talked about it before we were prepared.
Well, also, I think that's why you guys are our people. Like,
Yeah,
really,
exactly.
why you all are our people. Like, we get each other. And clearly, it's really funny because I was, when Katrina, you were saying about like how you could kind of feel it. And Cassidy, you were talking about like all of us, like everybody kind of sensed the change. But that's because we really are all connected. And we were feeling what you needed, you were feeling what we were needing, and that's why this is happening. Because we really want to foster that connection so that we're all doing what we need. Because we really are reading for you guys, and that's beautiful, and you guys are really listening, so.
So it's like, why not let's come into a room together and read with each other,
Yes, let's have a good time. Yes.
Well, thank you all for coming and for talking with us. We held this Q&A really because we just wanted to see your faces and connect with you and have a conversation about it. So thanks for bringing yourselves here.
Yeah, and also thank you for trusting us. Really,
Mhm.
thank you for your trust. Really, really appreciate it.
And for sharing.
Inviting us.
Oh, yeah, of course. And thank you for sharing your experience with us. Because I mean, we've talked about that multiple times of like, we know people are into this, but like, what is even happening? And knowing how deeply you all have experienced our work feels to me really significant and important. And I really just feel honored to have gotten to hear that. So thank you.